but it is awful. This happens, and I think unless you're a part of the queer community, which most of us are, and our creatives are, that care wouldn't be there, that frustration. So we want to deliver this epic performance because we want people to leave the theatre and say, "Oh, so funny! Wow, do they do that to people?" Yeah, they do. Yeah, and I think that wouldn't have been there if, as you said, we didn't have the creatives, we didn't have all of us who care about queer community so much. So it was in our hearts to do well with the story, and it is essential. It has to be. They have to be able to creativity that show there.
And just on that, you mentioned that it is a very serious topic. This does happen in real life. So, especially in the UK at the moment, there is a big conversation around a ban on conversion therapy. Has that led into your performance at all? How have audiences reacted to that? Has it affected anything you've done on stage?
I mean, it's certainly been topics that we've been talking about because obviously it's all happened during the run of this production. But what's been interesting is obviously we don't have like a stage door, so we exit via the bar area, so we get to see everyone, we get to chat to everyone. And there's been a couple of times where, for example, my sister brought a friend of hers who's a gay man, and she didn't realise that he had actually gone through conversion therapy. And I think because of what's going on with it, you know, in the government and what's going on with this show, he actually stopped and opened up and sort of told us about his experience. So even if it's just allowing people that opportunity and that safe space, and he must have felt safe enough having seen the show and having seen how the message is put across and the importance of it and that amazing energy that we feel every night within the audience. So even if it's just that one person who has that conversation, then I'm happy. Do you know what I mean? Because he's felt he can, and he'd never spoken about it before. So for me, that was an incredible experience.
Is that a regular experience with the show, or is it kind of a rarity?
Yeah, I think there's been people that have come back time and time again as well, and that really speaks a lot. You know, that they want to come back here and experience it again. And people have come in cosplay, and people have brought us gifts because I've been cosplay. And it's because they feel a part of it, and that's what we wanted. It isn't just a show to sit and enjoy and go home. We're saying, hey, there's loads of us, we're all together, and we're with you, you're with us, and we will fight whatever needs to be fought here, because it's crazy. I remember going back to the dressing room between scenes and going onto social media, as people do when you're stage, and like double taking at what I was reading the day was announced. And the cast, I remember everyone coming in into a meet. Do you remember? I was like, guys,
yeah.
we all need to see this.
Yeah.
And I don't think we were in a little bit of disbelief, like, and also felt this immense amount of responsibility to kind of push our story even harder, because I just couldn't believe that is happening here, anywhere in the world, but here, really? Like, in this country, you need to do that? Like, say a certain person in the queer community, but you still can go through therapy, because what? Like, so it was just this mad amount of responsibility on our shoulders to be like, no, please come in. It was just insane that we were telling that story and that was happening in the press. And I think we all felt a bit emotional going back on stage. And
a lot of anger.
Yeah.
All of us or none of us, basically.
Yeah.
And before I get a bit deeper into that, I do want to ask, does this count as cosplay?
Absolutely. Yes. Give me Mary vibes, that is.
Yes.
Oh, thank you. Right, so going a bit deeper into that subject, Bobby, I want to ask, as in your position as Chief Executive of Hanson City, I know you've been involved in a lot of the consultations around the ban on conversion therapy, and I'd love for you to tell the audience a bit about your experience in those conversations. But also, does this happen? Does this version of this happen in real life? What does it mean in reality?
I mean, the short answer is that yes, of course it happens in real life. You know, it's a huge privilege, actually. And first of all, thank you for portraying it in a way to the queer community and with the queer community, because it's something that we can all look at and laugh at, and actually it gives us that light relief of something that's so deep and horrible. 48% of trans people attempt suicide in their lifetime. 85% have some form of depression. 92% have suicidal ideation, and not because they're trans, because they're not being allowed to be trans. And exactly as you shown in the play, as well as lesbian and gay people, trans people go through conversion therapy. And the things that we've seen in the play are pastiches, conversion therapy light. We see all of those things that we've seen in the play. And if you can imagine going through those things in real life, that we've seen portrayed in a light-hearted way. Imagine, those enforced rape, Imagine the big tool that our society uses is shame. That's the tool that society uses for anybody that doesn't conform. We celebrate diversity in nature. We have David Attenborough on telly. We love it, don't we? We look at rainforests. We look at the different diversity in species. We look at the different diversity in birds and plants and animals. And we celebrate them and love them. And yet we can't celebrate differences and diversities in people. And we have these mechanisms in our society, in the UK, where we try to force somebody to be something that they're not. We try and force somebody to not be themselves, to not be what they were born to be. And being trans is perfectly natural. It's just hormonal development in the womb. Being gay is perfectly natural. And yet instead of celebrating those diversities, instead of embracing them as the beautiful things that they are, instead of allowing people to flourish in their lives, we force them into these regimes that destroys their mental well-being, and in lots of cases takes their lives. And it's just unacceptable. We have 14 countries around the world that the UK in lots of places would look at as being more backward than the UK. Like, how arrogant is that, looking at another country and thinking that we're more advanced and we're better than them, looking at other people and thinking that we're better than them. 14 other countries around the world have already banned conversion therapy. Loads more are already close to banning it. And yet our government from 2018 has done nothing but promise that they'll ban it. I actually have it in writing. I did some work earlier this year with the government's really well titled Safe to Be Me conference. First of all, we said that us as the trans community weren't going to take part in it, and they seemed to finally want to listen to us when we forced the issue. I spent a long time, weeks, working with them and other groups in the trans community to try and get to the stage where we could take part and actually have our voices heard, because actually trans voices being heard in the UK is a problem. We have a media, we have a government which is fundamentally anti-trans. We don't get our voices heard. I spent several weeks working with them. One of the things that they gave me in writing was that trans people would be included in the conversion therapy ban, including trans children, in writing from the Equalities Minister. 24 hours later, as we heard, they went back on that promise. not just from that promise that they gave me, but the promise that they've given people in the UK, members of the LGBTQIA community in the UK, for the last 4 years, that they ban conversion therapy. That they ban conversion therapy like all of the other civilized nations around the world. It's, we shouldn't live in a country that thinks shaming people to death is acceptable. We shouldn't live in a country that thinks having these mechanisms of hate and destruction are acceptable. We shouldn't live in a country where people aren't valid, aren't valued, aren't seen as valuable just because they're lesbian, gay, bisexual, trans, or anybody else from that amazing pride spectrum. We should live in a country that's based on love and acceptance. And until we get to the stage where everybody stands up, stops being apathetic when they hear things on the news, and writes to their MP, stands up for change, isn't just a silent ally, but bloody well stands up for every single member of the LGBTQIA community, nothing will change, and that's what we need to do.
And Bobby, just on that, it seems futile to say what can we do, because there's writing to MPs, there's following organisations like yours that do a lot of great work. But where are we now in terms of ban on conversion therapy? What's the next step?
So it always makes me smile when people, because I get this question a lot, what can we do? What can we do to help trans awareness? What can we do to help the LGBTQIA community gain better acceptance? What can we do to stop conversion therapy? And the answer is fairly simple. Do whatever you think you'd do if somebody was coming along to take away your rights. To take away your right to be able to have a career. To take away your rights to be able to go out in public. To take away your rights to be yourself. Because that's what the government is trying to do to the trans community. The conversion therapy, rights to your MP. Use your vote. Trans in the City isn't a political organisation, so I can't really sort of say,
You can't say vote Labour.
No, I can't say that. I can say that my favourite colour is red. Obviously, going further than that. But use your vote, use your voice. Get people to listen. Use your voice at work, use your voice with your families. Tell people. Go and follow. There's a great group, the Ban Conversion Therapy Consortium, where we've got lots and lots of LGBTQIA groups coming together. Go and protest. Go and talk to your friends and tell them what's happening. Go and urge them to do something. Be an advocate. Don't be a silent ally. If you're going to be an ally and remain silent, then don't bother being an ally. Shout.
Thank you so much, and I'm aware of the time. I do want to end on one question, and then I'll see if there's one question from the audience, and if not, we'll retire to the bar.
Not that old.
I'll end on a quite a light question for the cast. How much did the film influence your performance, what you were doing? Did you watch it? Did you watch it together?
Yeah.
What's your experience of the film and the music?
Well, I felt like a terrible queer person because I've never seen it. Apologies, sorry. I'm so sorry. But now I've seen it. I watched it like 4 or 5 times before we started rehearsals.
Did you watch it before your audition?
Did I? Yes, I did. So I watched it once before the audition, Yeah, that's when when the brief came through. I was like, oh, this is an interesting name. Why is it? Oh, it's a film. Oh, I haven't seen this. Oh my god, why haven't I seen this? And then yeah, because we were asked to watch it for research purposes, but the 3 or 4 times after, I was like, I didn't have to watch it. I wanted it. But yeah, I mean, for me, I also did a lot of research of watching YouTube videos with the director being interviewed at all these loads of different things, and it was really interesting to see the contrast for me, the design contrast. So the fact that at the start of the film she uses all of these natural organic materials in the home, in the parents' home, their clothing, all of the interior design, and then obviously when we move to True Directions, it's all artificial, fake plastic, shiny like the flowers, to symbolise obviously the fact that when she's at home and living authentically, it's natural and organic, and then obviously it's artificial. So for me, that was incredible, and that was something that I kind of took with me. Obviously, my characters, I don't really go into True Directions only to sort of drop Megan off, but it was important for me playing Larry to really kind of understand that, but also to know that journey that he's had, having been married to Mary and probably having lived in that environment. So knowing that Larry actually was probably really oppressed, and was he in the closet at that time and living this false life with this woman who may have been, sort of ordering around as well. And so I feel there's that's what really influenced me really. And also I love RuPaul, but
I had seen it.
Alright.
Did you watch it again before your audition?
Yes, do you know what? I went on holiday just before we started rehearsals, and I remember sitting on the plane and everyone else was asleep, and I was like this on my laptop watching it, like I just love this movie so much. I love the ending because I've been bisexual for as long as I can remember, and I've never essentially come out, and I think it's a real shame actually, because I think now I'm in an industry and we're in this amazing time at the moment where, or maybe I'm just lucky that I'm in an industry where it happens a lot, where lots of people are like, this is who I am, but it kind of never happened for me, and I was just as I was. So I remember watching that movie being like, oh god, but I was okay to tell my mates, like, oh yeah, I can do that, but it was like, I just can't remember if it was cool or not. I just kind of didn't care. It just didn't come out. It was just how it was. But I just love that nothing bad happened. I know I said it before, but nothing bad happened to the lesbians, which was a big deal.
Yeah, it is.
Like, okay, well, she went through, obviously were at this awful place, but at the end, like, I was kind of annoyed at the end. I was like, you're not going to show me where they live?
Yeah.
Or like, what happens to the parents, who is on their side? Like, come on. So I'd be a number 2.
I was a cheerleader.
Yeah, I was a cheerleader. But yeah, it's influenced our show so much. I mean, look, you can see by the set. I can only imagine what the Western transfer is going to look like. We'll have actual automation. We won't push.
I'll let you know when I come back.
Yes, thank you.
But yeah, the heightened, it's so heightened, isn't it, really? All of it from the very beginning. And like Ollie said, I had not a lot to play off with my characters. Kimberly is like, it's so brief at the beginning, and I have taken Hillary to another world. But you find that, but it had to be, cartoon, because as you said, we wanted to offer the lighter version that people could still laugh, even though it's such a horrific thing. Because I think if it had been doom and gloom about it, it wouldn't feel like the space we've created. It would feel like quite a challenging space, and that's not what it is. It's an inviting space to bring your pal who doesn't know much about conversion therapy and teach them, and they'll still have a good time. And I think the movie does that, and I think we've really watched it. Like, the movie was such a big deal for us, and Billy, who was our associate director, he created, do you remember that incredible pack that we were sent?
Oh, yes.
Oh my gosh.
All the research stuff, yeah.
With all the research stuff that I never knew, and again I was on holiday, so I was reading up on it, and I just learnt so much that I didn't know, and he went into so much depth about the movie.
Yeah, it's amazing.
And we all had that sent to us before we start, so that was just incredible. Like, you know, it was a real learning experience, and the cast is we're one big family, and we from the get-go we were like, well, we can be here, we want to be here. So the funniest thing is that like apparently gay people sit a certain way, and I always sit like this.
Bisexuals don't know how to sit on chairs.
Well, apparently, if you're like lesbian, you like sit like
Lesbians
that.
are like this.
Yeah, apparently so. So we put that into the
Judging
show.
it.
Well, you're actually, you know, you're doing right.
I'm editing myself. What am I doing?
But we have it in a whole new me, like things that you probably wouldn't notice unless you were in the rehearsal process. But like we're sat singing, and then we have a new thought. It's like, oh, I must sit like a straight person. Yeah, so we went in. We went in. You know, like we really tried to do our best as we could to show everything as it should be.
That's amazing. Thank you. So we have run out of time. So thank you to Jodie Steele, Oliver Brooks, and Bobby Pickard. Please follow House of Pride on social media, and thank you to the Turbine Theatre for allowing us to have this conversation at the end. We will be occupying the bar until it closes, so please come and join us all for a drink. We might even buy you one. So thank you very much.
Thank you again.